Hey guys, welcome to Rough Draft Research. We are back and we are ready to talk about year one, guys. So I'm going to kick it over to Dim Boys and let's talk about it.
What up? What up? Yeah, so we're going to talk about some first-year guys and what kind of impact we think they're going to have in their rookie season. I broke it down into 4 tiers. You got your immediate impact players, your quick impact with a little competition, your exciting future potential, and then a lot of question marks, but who knows what's going to happen. Those are my 4 tiers. So I think if we get into it, we'll talk about the first group of guys. And I grouped some of them because I had kind of similar opinions about them. And right off the bat, we're starting with our 4 quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. I think it's pretty obvious. Lawrence and Wilson are immediate day one starters unless something goes horribly wrong, like an injury. And then Lance and Fields, I think worst case scenario, they start by week 4. So I'm kind of just lumping them all in. They're your almost day one quarterbacks or day one quarterbacks. In my opinion, Lawrence has the worst team around him. He's got some good weapons in Chark, Chenault, Marvin Jones, Etienne, and James Robinson in the backfield. But worried about that offensive line. But I don't know. I'm kind of lumping all those guys together. What do you guys think?
What do we think? I pretty much agree with you. I have Jimmy G has till week 5 to prove it or get out of the way.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, obviously Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence have unlimited opportunity, whereas the other guys have to either, prove it early or wait for someone to choke ahead of them. As far as Trey Lance, I think it's obvious that Jimmy G is going to lead the way. This is a contending team. They've been a little conservative in their quarterback play over the past few years, in my opinion. And I don't think that's what they're going to get in Trey Lance. I think when they're ready to put it in full gear, top gear, can overdrive, they'll put Trey Lance in. But I think they'll be comfortable waiting as long as a full year if things are going well with Jimmy. But with Justin Fields, I don't know. I want to say, why doesn't he just start week 1? But then I look at Bill Lazor as the OC, and this guy is coming from 3 years with the Bengals, including a year as a quarterback coach and 2 years as the OC. So he's very familiar with Andy Dalton as a quarterback.
That's true.
And so that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I know Matt Nagy's fighting for his job. It's not going to work, Matt. But someone in this organization is sharp because they did what they had to do to get Justin Fields. So it's just, in my mind, I just don't know what to expect from him. But I think long term, he's definitely, I kind of want him as a, number 1 in this class out of these guys long term, personally.
That's fair. He's up there for sure.
Yeah, and don't forget, the Bears fans are ruthless. So Andy Dalton's got to win in those first 3 weeks. Otherwise, I think he's got to win 2 of the 3, I feel like.
I feel like even if he wins, if he plays like shit, Bears fans don't care.
Oh,
they're going to be like, if they win 13-10 and Andy Dalton's going for 200 and a touchdown and 1 interception. They're gonna be like, we should have won by 40. That's just how Bears fans are. So
Trubisky was winning games.
Yeah, and they pulled his ass.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
Dude, ask Cody Parker, man. They're relentless. A question that came to my head is when you were talking about Jimmy G. So I do agree with you that if, a contending team, they're going to be conservative. Do you think they'll throw in a little Trey Lance at the goal line kind of
for
sure. Rush the ball
some
thing?
Kind of wildcat or whatever.
I mean, he's going to see the field, maybe just not.
Yeah, I mean, you guys remember what they did when Flacco was still under center at the Ravens, and they brought Lamar in on special change-up stuff. I mean, it's not going to be the stupid Taysom Hill bullshit, but it'll be some real calculated and effective work, I think.
Yeah.
So I definitely think a blend, but
definitely. Well, let's kick it back over to you guys.
Yeah. So after the quarterbacks, we'll go with the superstar tight end Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's going to have an immediate impact for sure. Julio's leaving 20% of the target share in Atlanta, and he was also hurt for most of last year, even when he was on the field. It's easy to just assume, to me, that Kyle Pitts is going to take a lot of that. But I don't know if that's the case, man. Russell Gage came on pretty strong, was very consistent in the first time they ever used him. He had 90 catchable targets, and he caught 72 of them. It's a catch rate of 80% for the first time you're ever asked to do major work. Regardless of that, I just want to warn people that I'm concerned that Pitts is not going to live up to these ridiculously high standards that people are setting. I think he could still be a top 3 tight end, easily, top 3 or 4. But, like, people are already lauding him as, like, oh, he's going to win your fucking league. I'm like I told you guys earlier, I'm in this new Dynasty League, tight end premium, and Pitts went in the first round before Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller, which is just
that's
insane.
Crazy.
You know, like people view him like that. I don't know if he reaches quite that height, but he is going to be, for a rookie, he's going to have huge immediate impact. And let's not forget, though, tight end has kind of proven over the years to be a more difficult transition for rookies to the NFL, from what I can see. Not hugely difficult, but still just a little. It's a little slower process, it feels like.
Yeah, the year 3 rule, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying this in a dynasty startup, tight end premium, and I would probably take a 20-year-old over a 31-year-old.
That's fair. I mean, I get it, but the first round still feels.
Ooh, man, what is a premium? It's a 1.5 PPR for tight ends.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it then. I think I'd rather have a running back, but that's me. But like you're saying, so 88 yards or 88 targets, we're going to Hayden Hurst, and 68 we're going to Julio.
Yeah.
And I know Russell Gage is going to step up and be the number 2 wide receiver. Obviously, it's either him or Frank Darby, right? So,
or Zacchaeus or whoever that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to.
Yeah.
Mr. Z.
I'm not dragging that name through the. I'll get it by the time we do the divisional episode. I'll have that name down. But I think that he robs plenty of action from Hayden Hurst.
Oh yeah.
And I think he also absorbs quite a bit of work from that Julio load, which was a partial season. Mm-hmm. So I think he could easily be on pace for 80 plus targets.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are probably going to be red zone targets. That's what this team has kind of been missing, even with Julio there.
Yeah.
They struggled to get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, Julio's famous for not catching touchandowns.
Yeah.
And
poor guy.
Seems weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think.
I mean, he
Mike
just
Davis
gets double covered in the red zone,
Well, so does Devonte Adams.
And Adam Thielen.
Right. Yeah, okay. Cool guy. Yeah, I forgot. Julio Jones sucks ass. That's the part. He can't. No, you put a line there that he can't run past, and he freaks out. Don't paint him in the corner.
Well, there is Arthur Smith.
Yeah, former tight end coach,
which is huge.
And he used Jonnu Smith and Anthony Fersker pretty all right. So Hayden Hurst, don't count him out, man. Yeah. Hayden Hurst on the block, guys.
That's funny.
No,
and a number 4 overall pick. That's.
Hayden Hurst has shown out, man. He had a bad year in the transition to a new team, but I think that there's a ton of potential for him.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted. I'm not saying Pitts isn't going to be a dominant rookie, but
it's my only all cap stud.
Yeah, no, he's going to be awesome, but let's reel it in just a little bit. I feel like this hype is getting crazy.
You're going to have to do something unreasonable to get him right now.
Yeah, like it sucks because I'm never going to get him in a league because it's just like he's never going to be there available where I think that's where I think he should go in the 4th round, and he's never going to be there. Anyway, we can move on to the next guy. We got Jamar Chase. This one's pretty simple. He's going to be a stud, at least in terms of opportunity. AJ Green was targeted 104 times last year. Chase is going to take all of that and then some. The Bengals had a really good balance last year with their receivers. Boyd got 110 targets. Higgins had 108. and then AJ Green had 104. So I think they're going to try to keep that production up and just target all three of these guys 100 times. But I do think Chase becomes the number one alpha target there. I could see 120, 125 targets easy.
Sure. Yeah, that was nice that they all had 100-plus targets and a good balance.
Yeah.
Obviously, with A.J. Green getting that much of a workload, there was something to be desired even with Boyd and Higgins on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the opportunity is huge for Jamar Chase. A lot of these guys I have number one wide receiver on their team is their potential, like Rashad Bateman and Devonta Smith. This is the only guy I have number one, top 12 wide receiver in the league.
Yeah.
It's his potential. I don't think it's year one, but I do think that Green, Higgins, and Boyd with those 300-plus targets, they only combined for 12 touchdowns through the air last year. So I think that him in the end zone, just being that red zone, what they need, obviously those guys weren't getting it done.
Yeah.
So if he can step up in the red zone and get into the end zone, that's a multiplier.
Yeah.
It's 100 points in a PPR league just off if he can catch 100 targets, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Or catch 100 of his 125-ish targets. So
I think that's easily doable for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So you put 8 touchdowns in there, and all of a sudden you're definitely talking about a top 15 wide receiver right here.
Yeah, easy.
So I'm crazy about him.
Me too. And another guy I'm never going to be able to get.
For sure.
All right, we'll move on. Jaylen Waddle is my next guy up. Waddle has a little more competition, in my opinion, than Chase. Another inbound Dolphin and Will Fuller. They had Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker. But those were the only two people on their team that went over 80 targets, which is not great. So I expect Waddle to get targeted early and often. I could see him having maybe not 100 because I still think they're going to use Gesicki a lot. They brought in Will Fuller for a reason, but close to 100, maybe a little over. So in the 90s probably for Waddle, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like they're going to pass the ball that much, even though they should.
That's fair.
I think this team just gets conservative and relies on their defense, and it's going to allow their season to slip away because they didn't do enough for the O-line or the run game to have a balanced attack. But I love Jaylen Waddle, man. So I don't even expect him to be a starter-worthy player this year.
Okay.
But I think that he can be big time in the future. Like you said, Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, this is his competition. If you look at the guys that are free agents after this year, that's Will Fuller, Preston Williams, and Mike Gesicki. So the future role for him is pretty huge. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm scared about this team, man.
Yeah, they're an intimidating team to try to predict.
Right.
It's odd what they're doing, because we would have thought they do like a conservative style, but then you're right, they didn't do anything to improve the line or the run game. Mm-hmm. And so are they just expecting it to get better for no reason? Or are they I don't know what they're doing. So I'm with you. It's a scary team.
It feels like there's a chance, and I would say it's 15% that Brian Flores no longer with the Dolphins, maybe Tua gets traded after this year. I feel like this could be a dumpster fire in Miami, or it could be hey, we barely made the playoffs and losing the wild card round.
Yeah.
But I'm just not as excited about this team because it seems too one-dimensional and a little too...
I was excited about the potential of the Dolphins being in the playoffs, but I'm with you for sure. So we can move on. Devonta Smith is my next guy. The Eagles were so ravaged by injury last year. They had a bunch of undrafted players starting for them at receiver on a regular basis. And then they decided to go out and get the Heisman Trophy winner. I don't think that's a coincidence. They wanted some superstar talent at that position. No receiver went over 80 targets last year for the Eagles, and I definitely expect that to change. I don't know that I think Devonta Smith is going to be a top 10 receiver or anything, but I think he's going to have the opportunity to be.
Yeah.
Because he's just going to get targeted like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, basically I've got, similar, like no one's going to stop this guy from being a monster on this team. If you look at the success along big names in college, it wasn't even competition on his own team or his size. None of that slowed him down. And I don't think that anything's going to slow him down now. People are worried about Jaylen Hurts, but we haven't seen enough for it really to be a legitimate concern. So they could come in here and just knock it out of the park. Zach Ertz is leaving. So you're left with Jalen Rhaegar and Dallas Goddard. That's a huge void. They struggled last year, like you said. And I think he's got that stud future potential, but I wouldn't put him there this year. Like you're saying, he's not going to be a top 10, top 12.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be a value pick, wherever you can get him.
I agree. Yeah. Enough on that, I think. So we can move to the first and only running back that I have in my immediate impact for rookies. And also, I just want to...
Trey Sermon.
I just want to clarify. When I say immediate impact, I don't necessarily mean immediate superstar impact. I just think their opportunities are going to be there. Like, they're going to have a starting role already. Who knows how that's going to translate? But whatever. That's just a little bit of admin. Najee Harris. It's got to be Najee Harris. There's nobody on that roster that can compete with him. Steelers' offensive line concerns aside, does anybody have a clearer path to a starting role other than Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson in the first round?
No.
So, he's going to get the work. Let's see how it goes. If he's getting destroyed at the line every year because the Steelers keep cutting linemen, who knows? But he's definitely going to get the opportunity to be a number one running back.
Yep, for sure, man. I've got here James Conner in 11 games had 169 carries, followed by 111 by Benny Schnell, and 33 for Anthony McFarland. So, and those guys combined for 51 catches. So I just think Najee is in line for like a gigantic role. Obviously, 200 plus targets. I would say upwards of 50 or 200 plus carries. Sorry,
upwards of 50 targets.
Yeah, and man, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dang, man, this is funny. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes about the Steelers. So let's see, 10 combined touchdowns and 0 receiving touchdowns from the running backs. So that's definitely going to change.
Yeah. No, he's going to do that himself, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got a huge potential. I do think that Benny Snell does see some work. I put in 70% of the carries for Najee year one.
Yeah, for sure.
With the potential to just crush the rest of the competition after that. But I think there's not too much to say about him, man.
No, that's why that was one of my shortest write-ups of this first group. All right, well, then we can move on. Rashad Bateman, another guy, immediate impact for sure. Everybody, if you've been watching this podcast or listening to it on wherever we're able to listen to, everybody knows my concerns with the Ravens' new look passing game. I'm not sure that I buy into it. But in terms of play time, Bateman's going to be up there with any rookie in this draft. Maybe a little slower start because the Ravens do have Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews, and they brought in Sammy Watkins. But I could see Bateman at the end of the season being a top 2 in targets for his team, easily.
Yeah, I think he's going to be number 1 on his team.
Okay.
I certainly hope so. But the thing with him, as you're basically saying, is that new opportunity, vacated targets aren't really big on the Ravens. 48 Willie Snead targets, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So it really has to be a philosophy shift towards the passing game in order for him to be effective. But he's going to be an immediate starter. He has an exciting skill set that doesn't exist on this team. He has the versatility that Hollywood Brown does not have and that a tight end can't have.
Yeah.
So I think he comes in and is a immediate possession receiver and just gets a ton of targets. I want to say that he becomes almost like a Deontay Johnson light in a lighter passing game, but that kind of receiver that you just see catching the ball and getting first downs, upwards of 10 times a game.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm with you about his skill set. Obviously, anybody that watched the live stream knows I wanted him on the Packers for that exact reason. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's the Ravens passing game. Like, okay, yeah, we're talking all offseason about how they're going to change, and then once it's not working in the first game of the year, are they just going to revert back to running it down your throat, which got them to the playoffs 2 years in a row?
Yeah, if they want to lose the divisional game again, they're just going to have to stick with whatever they've been doing.
Right.
See you there, Bills.
All right, next guy I have as an immediate impact, Terrass Marshall or Terrace. Have we ever figured that out?
We're never going to. I don't want to know. I'm going to call his mom. How you say this name?
100% we pronounce it TMJ.
TMJ. All right. This is another team, speaking of the Ravens not losing any targets, this is another team that lost a guy that had near 100 targets. Samuel had in the 90s. And then they tried to replace him with a rookie, which I think is a smart move, especially because you got him not at the beginning of the draft. You kind of took, what was he, second, third round? I forget. Marshall?
He's the second round.
Second round pick.
The 26th pick in the second round.
Okay. And so I'm not saying that Marshall and Samuel are the same type of player, because they're not at all. But I could see him getting similar production in this offense, 90-ish targets.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest question mark for me is Sam Darnold. And you guys know I'm into Sam Darnold, which means I'm into TMJ.
For sure.
So, yeah.
All right, man. I mean, I'm with you there too. It's I was just staring it down the face. He was a 59th pick in the draft.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know.
I got it right in front of you.
Oh, okay. Good job, dude. Yeah, pick 59. Right after the Chiefs. But whatever. They needed a linebacker pretty bad, didn't they? Well, I love Terrass Marshall Jr. I
think it's Terrace.
As I was writing this, I realized I probably shouldn't have traded up for him. I should have just taken Elijah Moore, but whatever. I expect him to get off to a pretty slow start, acclimating. They're kind of babying him right now because of some injuries. Mm-hmm. But I think if his transition to the NFL goes well, the injuries aren't a concern, and he starts to gain traction and get some slot receiving action with Sam Darnold, which we saw as the only valuable receiving role with the Jets last year. I think it could be amazing, especially because Terrace Marshall Jr., TMJ, one of my favorite things about him was just how he could run horizontal routes in the end zone and just beat guys with his size, with his speed, and just with his ball awareness. He was just a touchdown scoring machine, even though he's playing on an LSU team that had people outshining him near constantly.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a very similar thing here. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen when you get Christian McCaffrey back, if that team just says, hey, I'm glad we have all these talented wide receivers that we're never going to need because CMC is back, But you also have to remember, I say this, I'm going to say this every time, but he's working with Joe Brady, who's a former LSU wide receivers coach and OC. Familiarity is there. You have to imagine he was like, hey, this guy's here at the 59th pick. Let's do this. We have to do this. But, Robbie Anderson, free agent after this year. I think that Marshall has a bright future, but I do think slow start.
I can see that. Yeah, no, I kind of echo everything you're saying there for sure. All right, we'll move on to the next group. Another group of guys, and they both play for the Texans. I got Brevin Jordan and Nico Collins.
Let's go.
I'm basically lumping these guys together just because I think if I had separate write-ups, it would almost say the exact same thing, just with different names. I mean, Jordan Atkins, Randall Cobb, and Brandon Cooks are all getting up there in age. Will Fuller's gone. Kiki QT can't stay on the field, unfortunately, because I actually kind of like him. He's a sneaky little explosive player.
Zay Jones Jr.?
I think there's a good chance Brevin Jordan and Nico Collins can end their rookie season by starting. Like, I don't know. Maybe even right off rip. But by the end of the year, I think they will be starting. My issue here is who's going to be the QB? Even if Watson comes back, seems like he still doesn't want to play for the Texans. So they might have to trade him. Then are you wanting Tyrod Taylor or Davis Mills? Like, I don't know. That's my issue. But as far as, like, immediate opportunity, Brevin Jordan and Nico Collins are going to have it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you. 53 vacated targets from Will Fuller. And then we have Jordan Akins and Darren Fells. I don't really get scared when I hear those names.
No,
they've had some flashes. And like you're saying, if this is Davis Mills, then I think a tight end could be his best friend. If it's Tyrod, cool. If it's Deshaun, like fuck yeah, But like you're saying, no Deshaun, whatever. This team's going to hell in a handbasket, but I think he's got a great opportunity to establish himself as a reliable target on this team going forward. And that's what the Texans to me are about. I think you can get some value out of David Johnson this year, but I think that if you're looking to get some cheap action that's going to really pay off for you in the long run, Brevin Jordan and Nico Collins for sure have to be the guys you're talking about, because there's not a lot of competition. I do like Brandon Cooks a lot. I know he's only 27. Like, he feels like he's been around for fucking ever.
There's a bunch of guys like that.
It's like
him, Sammy Watkins, Ezekiel Elliott. You always think they're way older than they are.
Mm-hmm. So I just think that the future is Nico and Brevin. I mean, they got good draft capital. And you got to imagine this team has to have a plan, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not 2021, but you can really not have to worry about a few skill positions with these guys. So
no, I agree.
So, I think Nico Collins could be a stud. I mean, obviously, me and AJ have been cockfighting over that shit for a while now.
Whose team is he on? Who got him?
You're lucky, man. You're lucky I went after TMJ. I could have had Elijah and Nico.
Yeah, you could have.
But that's all right. I don't have that many roster spots.
But then you wouldn't have Trey.
It's all good, dude. I would still have Trey. I would have always had Trey.
All right. So we'll move on. And
yes.
Let
us please move on.
I may be stretching immediate impact here just a little bit, but Amari Rogers, I do think
I did some pen and paper on this shit.
Has immediate impact because he fits exactly what the Packers offense has kind of been lacking.
Yeah.
With a dominant slot guy. And they used Tyler Ervin and Tavon Austin this last year the way they're going to use Amari Rogers. All those motion sweeps that they do. And it was all just distracting. Matt LaFleur constantly says he wants to give the illusion of complexity, but his offense is simple. That's what he does. He runs all these guys all over the place.
That kind of defeats the purpose to talk about it, huh?
Well, I mean...
It's like trying to pick up a chick. You know, it seem interesting without being too boring about being, right. Your interests, right?
Where I think Amari can have immediate impact is he can play that role, but he's an actual threat with the ball. And so, no, he's not going to be even in the top, I don't know, probably 35 or maybe even worse of receivers this year, especially if Rodgers isn't there. But I do see him as, like, if you're talking about roles and opportunities in an offense, I think he will get his, genuinely, because we got MVS as the deep threat. Devonte Adams is just amazing and is going to eat up all the targets. Lazard is kind of the opposite to Devonte. We still need that slot guy because Lazard doesn't really work in the slot that much. So I don't know, that you guys can shit on me. That's fine. But as far as
shirt off.
If we're talking immediate opportunity to be impactful, Amari Rogers is going to have it for sure.
Yeah, I put him as I see him as the wide receiver 2 on this team.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, who the fuck else?
No, I'm with you. I just thought I was going to get some pushback on it.
No,
dude, we've been talking about this.
They've been waiting for a guy like this for years, man.
Yeah, we talked about this 4 months ago before the draft happened. We're just like, who do we want to see in Green Bay? It's like Amari Rogers would be incredible.
Yeah. Well, literally all 4 of the wide receivers you named St. Brown, Lazard, MVS, Adams, all free agents next year.
Yep.
So they don't have a choice. Yeah. What are you going to do? Like, hey, rookie, we're really impressed with you, but we want to see these guys play out a year and then you just be alone here with no experience next year.
Yeah.
Like, no, they're going to cheat this guy on the field immediately. I think week 1 possibly, if he can show out. Obviously I think he has a work ethic. He obviously has the talent.
Yeah.
If he can hit camp hard, and if Aaron Rodgers is under center, you got to look for a number 2 guy in Green Bay to potentially be a top 40 wide receiver in the league. Especially, rookie year, people aren't going to be showing him that respect.
Yeah.
I always just remember Amari Cooper's rookie year where he blew up. It's because people were like, this is a rookie,
Yeah, who cares? Yeah.
Exactly. They had other things to worry about. So with Devonte Adams and Aaron Jones, you got other things to worry about. And it opens it up for him to really go off, especially out of the slot.
Yeah.
And the pedigree's there with his pops.
That's right. RDR, we got family trees up in this bitch.
Yeah, I could not be more excited about Amari Rogers, to be honest. So.
You got the jersey,
you will
man.
Be more excited. Come week 5, you'll be even more excited. Guaranteed.
All right.
There was weeks last year where Tyler Ervin was it was a waiver pickup, too.
Yeah.
People were excited for that. So.
That's fair. Yeah, and then I know Tavon Austin spiked pretty hard when we signed him, too.
Yeah.
We didn't really use him. But
Tavon Austin, this cracked me up. I was listening to a really old episode of ours earlier today, the wide receiver pre-combine episode, and you did Tutu Atwell.
Yeah, Tavon Austin without the hype.
Yeah, you kept talking about that, and you kept saying, like, if this guy can end up with, McVay or Shanahan, and I was like, holy shit, like, we should be higher on him than we are, because all the stuff you were like, this is the dream scenario came.
Well, that was before he weighed in at next to nothing. I thought online it said he was like 160, which was already too late. And then he weighed in at 145. Right. And I was like, well, all right, that's not going to work.
It's legit my 2nd grade weight.
Yeah.
Stupid. I'm huge though. It's okay. I got to ask, because I'm spyballing your game here. Where do you have Rondell Moore on your list?
He's in the next tier right here.
Okay. All right.
Just not a quick impact with competition is the place I have him in.
Okay. All right.
Just because I think there's more bodies there that could interfere.
Absolutely.
Impede his immediate success.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, we had different categories. And so I'm just kind of getting a feel of what's to come.
He was definitely one that I toyed with putting him up here.
Okay.
I think I had him in here first, and then I was like, well, there's still guys that I don't know. And we'll get into it in a minute of why. And I would not be shocked if he does become an instant impact. Yep. But before we get into that, we'll get into the last instant impact, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, if you've been listening to this podcast, we're not huge fans.
We are.
But Marvin Jones, gone. Danny Amendola, gone. Kenny Golladay, gone. St. Brown was a 4th-round pick. And with the guys that the Lions brought in, Tyrell Williams and Rashad Bateman, I don't know. He could easily compete with those guys. My only issue with St. Brown is if you're banking on him to do it after this year, I just don't see it. But I think rookie season impact, I could see it.
Okay. Yeah, I think... Shit, dude. Okay, good.
He's a candidate for me that if you draft him late and he pops off and has 70 targets for the Lions and you trade him, and then next year he's just nothing, you just won. If you trade him for a piece or even a 2nd-round pick or something for the next year, I'm into that.
You trade him for Deontay Johnson or whatever.
Yeah. Somebody, because he's going. I mean, he went
Collins.
In the late second round of our rookie draft in our dynasty league, and I was baffled by that. So I don't know.
Yeah, just to throw some numbers out there, Marvin Jones had 115 targets, Danny Amendola had 69, and Kenny Golladay in a very, very limited role had about 30.
Yeah.
But you're missing out that lead wide receiver. They didn't have one last year, and it kind of showed. And he's going to have to be that guy this year. And I think it's going to be a lot of pressure. I think Hawkinson probably gets a lot of action. Cephas is going to step up a little bit. But you got to give Amon-Ra that love, man.
Yeah.
He's going to have plenty of opportunity. So if he's willing to, or if he makes it work, if he does the things that I think he failed to do in college, I think that I think he's going to be a flex-worthy play probably for a couple of years to come because this offense has enough issues. They're rebuilding. I don't think they need to take luxury picks on wide receivers if they can make him serviceable going forward. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of,
Fair enough.
So, we'll see. The quarterback room is a little weird.
Iffy, too. Yeah. There's just a lot of question marks on the Lions, for sure. But, yeah, as far as opportunity, he's going to get his.
I think he'd be number one receiver on the team.
Yeah. Now we're into the next tier, is that quick impact, but they got some competition. And my first guy here, like I started the last tier off with the quarterbacks, I got Mack Jones. I think Mack Jones eventually starts in New England, but it's going to be later than these other guys. Cam Newton, to me, has a little more rope than the veteran QBs on the other teams. And it's not because of how he played last year, but Bill just seems to love this guy. He loves his work ethic and just loves him. So I think they're going to try to make it work while they groom the kid that people weren't that hyped on anyway. And that's...
I mean, that's speaking of the hype, that's kind of what I do. I love doing the episode like this because the guys that I've just been out on ever since I watched their film, it forces me to reconsider and to look at now, the world was their oyster, and they fucking got sand and the pearl came out like shit. But now it's like they're in a small pond. The competition is known. The role is predictable. And when you think about Mack Jones, people legitimately thought San Francisco was going to take him the third overall in the draft. And it's like, well, shit. There must be some kind of reason that people were that high on him. Yeah. It couldn't have just been one weird dude said it and it just caught on like fire. People shut that shit down immediately. But this, it was sustainable for a long time into the draft. People didn't know what the hell was going to happen. So I think long term, like you're saying, probably a really, really good buy at his current value if you're in a dynasty league, especially a super flex league. This is the kind of guy that you can get for nothing and might end up with a healthy starter in the years to come.
For sure.
But Cam, I mean, all day with Cam, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
All right, so my next guy, Cadarius Tony. The Giants brought him in along with Kenny Golladay, and they didn't really lose anyone huge. But the first-round price tag obviously means they're trying to get Tony involved early and often. I just think there's competition, but I've always been higher on Sterling Shepard than a lot of people. And so I think there's just more there that I don't want to put him in the immediate impact, I guess.
Yeah, this was after I asked about Rondell, I was going to ask. Rondell and Cadarius were the guys that I thought were easily number 2 on their team candidates, which to me is an immediate impact. But I see what you're saying.
I could see both of them being in that. They're my fringe guys for sure.
For sure. I mean, there's a world where the veterans on those teams hold down that number 2 role, and these guys have to wait in line, which probably be better for the teams. But like you said, man, Kadarius Toney has every opportunity to play right behind Golladay and push for a big role. This is another receiving group that only had 12 touchdowns from 7 players last year. So they're missing something huge. And so what do? They bring in Kenny Golladay. They take a first-round wide receiver. They bring in Kyle Rudolph. It's crazy. So what we're going to see is a completely different team. I really like Kadarius Toney. I like the film. I like what he did in Florida. I wanted to see what could happen next. And then he went to the Giants, which is a coaching group that I don't trust. Yeah. And I got really skeptical. But now as I'm thinking about this, he's going to be on Front Street, man. They're getting Saquon Barkley back. And Daniel Jones just didn't have anyone reliable to throw to, especially in the red zone. If you're looking at these numbers, 7 different players, 12 touchdowns. That's disgustingly inconsistent, unreliable. So if you mix things up, put a big body out there in Kenny Golladay and give someone as versatile as Kadarius Tony the opportunities, I think we're looking at something pretty big. I think he could be a 90-plus target guy in his first year. And I think we'd be pretty happy.
Definitely bump him up to the tier above. But, yeah, fair enough. I could see it for sure. There's a few guys, honestly, in this group that I could see that happening with. And, honestly, the next one, Travis Etienne is one.
So the next 3, man.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, for sure. Well, next 4.
All right, never mind. You keep
anyway,
I'll shut up.
Travis Etienne, oh, man, your guess is as good as mine on this one. Apparently, he's a 3rd down back, but
totally.
You spent a 1st-round price on him.
He's a 5th down back.
James Robinson is still there. Does James Robinson get the goal line work and Travis Etienne do a lot of work in between the 20s? Like, what are we doing? Urban Meyer, why are you so confusing all the time?
Stupid.
I just don't understand it. His talent is incredible. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing in Jacksonville. This might be just me not understanding, but whatever. There's a lot. James Robinson balled out last year. You can't just erase him because you drafted somebody.
Yeah, man. So I didn't say anything about Trevor Lawrence, but I think you just segued all my Trevor Lawrence talk into, and you gave me a good segue to jump into what I have to say about this organization. And I just think that the coaching staff doesn't have the right priorities in mind.
Nope.
It's like, hey, they're trying to like flip a house, you know? They're like, oh, we'll paint it and we'll like put a new backsplash in there. And then like they won't notice that they fall through the floor in the bedroom because there's some missing pieces to this team and it's gross, man. And Urban just gives me this super red flag vibe that he's too big to fail, you know?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what I do. Of course I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, my system works no matter what.
And it makes me not want any of these guys. And then you talk about, James Robinson, 240 touches last year. He's still there.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
You're just going to erase him on Earth. Like, I don't...
You add in Marvin Jones to a already pretty decent receiving core. So
what's the plan?
How? Where? And what is Travis Etienne supposed to do to make me want to roster him on my team?
Yeah.
Sure, maybe he's going to get 50, 60 targets. He's going to get some carries. We know how amazing he is in open space. So if they can make that happen, it'll be great. But there's so much going on this team. The things that needed addressed were not Travis Etienne added to this team.
Not at all.
So
they literally could have taken an offensive lineman there, and that would have been the best decision for them, in my opinion.
And maybe they were excited. Maybe they were excited about the 2019, the 2020 year when he had 1,600-plus rushing yards. But those came in years where he had 200-plus carries.
Yeah.
And he's not getting 200 carries with James Robinson in the backfield. You know what I mean?
It doesn't make any sense.
God damn, dude. He brought a cannon to a knife fight, and they're like, what are you going to do with that? Like Ed from Good Burger, Like James Robinson's got that sauce that's going to keep the business going, but then they're just going to, they're like, no, we're selling out to Mondo Burger. So stupid. But I think that Travis Etienne is going to get the ball forced his way, and he's probably going to have some big weeks when he can break away a run, but I just don't want any Jags that aren't named Laviska Shenault or DJ Chark, and maybe Trevor Lawrence in 2022.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm with you. All right, so next up we've got another running back, a guy that I love, Javonte Williams. I think, because we're doing year one impact, that's the only reason he's a tier below those other guys. Javonte Williams will end the season as the number one a running back in Denver. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
But damn.
I just don't know when that'll be. It might be week 1. Everything from training camp is saying that he's outperforming Melvin Gordon already. It could be week 4. It could be week 10. Melvin Gordon didn't look bad last year for the Broncos. And that's where I'm at. And they have him for another year. If I'm the coach, why not work a guy that I know is good for one more year and save my rookie running back a little bit? Like, split them 50-50, 100%, because you don't want a chance of Javonte getting injured if you don't have to. When you've got a guy who produced for you last year, what would be the point of that? So that's where I'm at with Javonte as far as, because today is supposed to be year 1 impact.
Oh, shit.
I don't know.
I didn't know
that.
What?
I could see him being one of the best running backs of this class in year 1, but I could also see it take till next year when Melvin Gordon's gone, because they're obviously not re-signing him.
Yeah. I mean, no one's ever re-signed Melvin Gordon. And it ain't going to ever happen.
Yeah. Refer to the running back longevity episode from last week.
That's true.
It'll definitely let you know.
I was pointing up there. They're there.
Looking at me, looking at him, looking at us. Yeah, Melvin Gordon has had, 5 years in a row being a top 24 running back, including 14th last year. And that was with 215 touches. Philip Lindsay had 118, and he's gone now. If Gordon held down that backfield and led the way, I think that those days are definitely over.
Yeah.
Because Philip Lindsay, he's definitely talented. He got some shade on that undrafted free agency. It wasn't year 2 instant disrespect like they're doing in Jacksonville, but it was similar. But I think that Javonte Williams is 100% more lethal in the backfield than Philip Lindsay. So if you look at that spread of about 100 touches, that instantly goes down. And I think 50-50 on the year. And week 8, I think Javonte has a lead role.
Yeah.
And he obviously ruins any Melvin Gordon value. And potentially could be, he's a monster. We saw last year, I don't recall exactly, but I think he had 19 touchdowns. And he was sharing a role with Michael Carter, who, those guys both had a shit ton of work. Here, I got all the numbers. I got the numbers right here. So it was 157 carries to 156, Javonte to Michael Carter. Both of them were over 1,100 yards, and Javonte had 19 rushing touchdowns. So he's used to making a name for himself even in a 50-50 split. And most of that came through in the red zone. And I think that's probably what we're going to be seeing in Denver too. I think he could be an RB2 year 1.
Well, we'll move on to the next guy. And if you believe the camp hype about this guy, you should just go ahead and induct him into the Hall of Fame.
Baby.
Elijah Moore. My issue for not putting him in the tier above is, again, the Jets have Corey Davis. They have Denzel Mims. Not to mention, they have Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole at Elijah Moore's specific position. So I think it's going to take a year to find that balance. And, I mean, Crowder will probably be gone. Cole's on a 1-year deal. So Moore, after this year, could be the number 1 slot guy in the Jets offense. In an offense that likes to use those types of guys, too. But there's a lot of mouths. Maybe not superstar mouths, but there are a lot of mouths that need to be fed in that offense.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%. I'm crazy about Elijah Moore. I always have been. But given the crowd and the new coaching staff and a new quarterback, yeah, you really have to let the dust settle to see how this team is going to function, because they have so much new that we don't know. They're going to try a bunch of different stuff, and it's probably not going to translate to fantasy value. But yeah, Elijah Moore, I believe, once he establishes himself on this team, once he builds a rapport with Zach Wilson, I think he's never leaving the field.
Yeah.
And that could be as early as this year, but I don't think that it's right out the gate situation. But I do think he's the kind of guy that any rookie quarterback should want to have on their team. And I don't ever really think that Elijah Moore is going to look like a rookie in the NFL. I think that his play style, his work ethic, his aggressive nature, and his versatile skill set is going to put him in a place to just, you'd be like, oh, Jameson, or like Jameson who, like Crowder, the Crowder, you're going to crowd out my boy. I don't think you're going to crowd him out. And Keelan Cole, oops, you shouldn't have picked him up.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be spare change, man.
For sure.
So.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, you're right. You got to let the dust settle on this one. I mean, definitely take him because it's especially future value. It's going to be awesome.
For sure.
But just if we're talking year one, not too sure. Another guy who could have been, along with Elijah Moore, in the first tier, Rondell Moore. Interesting one. This Fitzgerald, unless I'm wrong, he has not officially retired, correct? He's probably going to retire. That would be my guess, but we don't know. And you're right. He had 60 targets last year. If he comes back, they're going to target him. That's just going to happen because he's Larry Fitzgerald. It'll probably go down to 40 or something, you would assume.
Yeah.
But Hopkins had 160 targets last year. Christian Kirk was disappointing as the number 2 guy overall, but you still think they want to see what they can get out of him before he's done with the Cardinals. So there's a path for Rondell to have a ton of work, but also a lot of competition. And, I mean, again, Hopkins had 160 targets.
That's crazy.
He's probably going to get, you'd think it would go down, but he's still going to get in the, high, 130 maybe.
That's what I was thinking.
So, I see where Rondell Moore could immediately get 90 targets, but I also see where in his rookie season they're like, oh, we got all these other guys. We don't need to use him yet.
I think everyone in America is also forgetting that A.J. Green had over 100 targets last year.
I didn't even mention A.J. Green.
Yeah. There's a real possibility that A.J. Green comes in and is like, fuck you guys, you know? Rondell who, But I do think Rondell Moore will be the number 2 targeted player in this offense. And I don't think that will necessarily translate into fantasy value short term, but I do think he's going to be a startable player as early as this year, depending on if A.J. Green can stay on the field. Dan Arnold also is leaving 45 targets. Oh, so God. What up? You got to look out for that. Stupid ass.
All right, so Michael Carter is my next guy. LaMichael Pirine and Tevin Coleman are all splitting time with Michael Carter.
Who?
Until
Tevin
one of
Coleman.
them presumably takes over and steps up. Carter's already, though, the best patch catcher out of the bunch. I mean, Pirine was only targeted 15 times last season. And, I mean, the Jets were a dumpster fire of confusing nonsense on offense last year. But that's still not a great number to look at, 15 targets for the whole season. And in an offense, I mean, again, Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, they like to target the passing game or the running back in the passing game if they're anything like all the other McVay clones that have come out of the NFL. And Carter's going to be that guy. So in PPR formats, I think he's going to be effective. I just don't know that year one he's going to get the rushing opportunities to kind of be like a number 1 guy for you, or even an RB2. Like he'll be an RB3 flex player to me. Yeah. Like that's his ceiling, in my opinion, so far.
Oof. Yeah. This is another team. This is that team, the same team as Elijah Moore, where the dust has to settle on this.
Yeah.
So you're talking about last year, Frank Gore come in and 187 carries. P. Ryan had 64, 54 for Ty Johnson. And then no running back had more than 20 targets.
Yep.
Which is like, what the hell's going on? And then you bring in this guy. You bring in frickin' Michael Carter, a guy who, sure, he only had 25 targets last year in college, but that's a shorter season. Mm-hmm. It's a different setup. And his counterpart, Javonte Williams, also had 25 targets. But so these guys know how to catch the ball.
Yeah.
They know how to play football, man. They're on a team with frickin' P. Ryan and Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman is way over the hill. So he needs to come in and just, punch these dudes in the mouth and say, shut the fuck up. It's my ball now. So I'm looking for him to get at least 65% of the work on this team. And honestly, I think that the passing game is the confusing part. The running game should be all his. But I don't think he's going to be an RB2 year one either.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Jets really move the needle. It's going to take Zach Wilson a little bit to get his groove. But they have a great O-line now, all of a sudden. And I think that's going to translate into some pretty damn good run games. So I got faith.
No, I couldn't agree.
P. Ryan.
My next two guys,
64 carries.
we can lump together pretty hard. Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. Sermon obviously has the draft capital over Mitchell. He's 2 rounds ahead of him. I think, again, I've said it 1,000 times on this podcast, I think they end up complementing each other very well. Mostert is deceptively old and a free agent. Wilson, unfortunately, already got hurt, and he's a free agent. So I think Sermon has the better chance to be a immediate impact guy because he kind of does that Jeff Wilson role that they already had.
Just be a straight badass all the time.
Yeah. But I could see both these guys getting more action quicker than we assumed they were going to after the draft.
Ooh, yeah. Obviously, with Jeff Wilson getting some injuries, I do think when he comes back and is healthy, he's going to be a kind of a thorn in the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, long term for Sermon, it's amazing in my opinion. So Mozart last year, 104 carries, Wilson 126. So, but the big numbers for me are McKinnon is leaving 81 carries and 46 targets behind. Yeah. That's a ton of targets. And you got to remember this was a team that struggled with injuries, Deebo Samuel and the Kittle factor. So there were targets to go around. That might level out a little bit. But I think that Trey Sermon, I think he's pass catch ability, change of pace. I think he could put a lot of work in. I got him around 35% of the work. And Elijah Mitchell, I'm putting about 10%, but he scares the shit out of me future value wise. And it's just like, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Elijah Mitchell, underdog of the year. So I think he's got a lot of potential. He's a safe bet for the future is what I said about him. Yeah. But then I did Javeon Hawkins next, and I was looking at their production in 2020. And all right, I'm going to read 2 stat lines to you. Elijah Mitchell, 141 carries, 878 yards, 8 touchdowns. 16 catches, 153 yards, and no touchdowns. Javeon Hawkins, 133 carries, so 8 fewer, 822 yards, about 50 fewer, 7 touchdowns, 1 fewer, same number of catches at 16, 127 yards, and 1 touchdown. And that is 8 games versus 10 games. 8 games for Javeon Hawkins, 10 games for Elijah Mitchell. Yeah. And I don't say any of this to downgrade Elijah Mitchell. To me, I was a little surprised on the Javeon Hawkins thing. It kind of brought him up a little bit in my eyes.
Yeah, but didn't Elijah Mitchell share the backfield with Trey Regis?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
And
just saying.
Also, I think a lot of it had to do with their size, if I'm not mistaken, and their workout. Because Javeon Hawkins came in at 183 pounds and ran a 4.5. Yep. And Mitchell was over 200, if I'm not mistaken, 201, and ran a adjusted 4.4, but a 4.3 on his pro day. So I think he just blew him out of the water on his workout. I mean, I can go, like, if you look at the workout metrics, this is Mitchell's, and then you go back, and this is Hawkins. So I think that's why he fell. But your point about them having similar production and being on teams that need to use him, like, yeah, I could see Hawkins having more impact than we thought as well.
That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
No, I agree with that initial point, but the reason why Hawkins is undrafted and Mitchell got in the 6th round, I think, is the size and workout.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we all have reasons not to like Javeon Hawkins, right? Or anyone from Louisville.
Yeah, have you seen the film?
Yeah, we've seen the film. I just thought I was a little surprised that his production was that similar, and I just did the guys one after the other. But I think it brought Javeon up a little bit. Basically, what I'm saying about a lot of these guys is things people I discounted and kind of just forgot about are kind of getting a little more life after looking at the opportunities they might be having, especially early on.
That's fair.
So, Mike Davis, what do you got, man?
The last guy for this tier is Kenny Gainwell. Miles Sanders has been subpar at best in pass catching duties, in my opinion, to this point. I don't know that all of that's his fault. The Eagles have just been kind of a mess ever since he got there. But there's a reason the Eagles drafted Gainwell. His most useful skills for them is pass catching. Yeah. So I think he's going to come in and take a lot of that role. And we saw with guys like Hines, McKissick last year, they both ended up in the top 24 who were predominantly pass catchers, and they didn't really run the ball that much. So there's value in those guys to be had, and I think Kenny Gainwell fits that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Hines and pass catching, and we're looking at Nick Sirianni and Shane. I should learn how to say these guys' names. So you got the OC from the Chargers and the OC from the Colts up here. Yeah. And so these teams both had pass-happy running backs in Nyheim Hines and Austin Eckler. So then you get a pass-happy running back in Kenny Gainwell. And I think that the opportunities are through the roof. Zach Ertz had 72 targets last year, and I don't think that those targets are going to be distributed amongst this kind of weak wide receiver core. And I don't think Miles Sanders has really taken that many either. We know that the running back and the tight end kind of fight over the same target share, and I think Kenny Gainwell is going to get a big portion of what's left behind by Ertz. And I'm looking at some college production, and if you're looking at 2019, which was Gainwell's last year playing for Memphis, he did have over 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns, and that's with Antonio Gibson on the team with him. So, he is a sleeper in the rushing game. I know that his vision in the pass catching game and all that is what his claim to fame is, but I do think that he has a potential to be a 3-down back, especially Miles Sanders entered the year with injuries last year. If anything like that comes up, this could be a guy that you're starting and getting huge value on.
I couldn't agree more. That's it.
That's it.
So this would be the third tier we're getting into. I could do that for sure and spend 2 minutes on these guys.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my ass, that chair is.
I'm gonna get another one.
No, it's good.
I gotta wait till I got back to Manhattan. I hear how it's a lot more cooler.
It was cooler in here when you were in.